Session today, as we planned it, is introduction to interviews. So this normally takes at least 4 to 5 hours. So we will be having 3 or 4 such sessions. And I believe these sessions are very, very critical, because once we get a perspective of what is the whole idea behind the interviews, like why do they conduct it, what are they looking for, what is the whole purpose of this exercise, right? Because we have given the exam, they know practically everything about us through the form, that elaborate form, right, which we submit. And when we get interview calls, usually these colleges will send you another form, which will be even more detailed than the previous CAT form. So it will have many of these qualitative questions also, like, hobbies, interests, strength, weaknesses, families, and all. So we provide them more information, more insight into our life. So after all this, and group discussion, which evaluates our communication skill, our group dynamics, team behavior. So after all this, what is the reason for the interview, and why place so much premium on it? Why can't it be just be a customary thing, just for the sake of it? Just the final reaffirmation that, okay, the choice is correct. We are not making a mistake. Why make it so important, right? So once we get a perspective on that, or effectively, essentially, let's say, once we understand what they are looking for, what is their objective, their end goal, then accordingly we can prepare, right? Because if we have to ensure that they choose us as a candidate, then we must also be aware of their preferences, right? What is it that they are looking for? Only when we know that can we design, construct our preparation, right? So that is the key to the whole preparation, I think. Otherwise, like, it happens everywhere, even in CAT or other exams, and same will happen in GDPI. We run like headless chicken, no idea where we are going. We just enjoy the idea of activity, that we are doing something. And what is the reason? Where is it leading us to? We have no clue, right? So it's very important for us to truly understand what is the whole purpose, the objective. If we do that, I believe once we orient ourselves to the right way of thinking, the right line of preparation, then I think the whole thing becomes a lot more easy for us. Otherwise, it is a struggle. I've seen people struggling a lot in these interview preparations, and sometimes they just think that let's just have mock interview. So mock interview after mock interview, everyone more humiliating than the previous one. Different types and levels of insult thrown at them. It's almost like they become some kind of sadist. They start enjoying it. So that is probably not the right way, right? That experience, for us to become valuable, you must truly understand what is the whole objective of this platform. Okay, so that is what we'll try to understand in this interview basics class. Now everyone has a different profile, and people come from different backgrounds. So the expectation of the panelist from the individual candidate will obviously vary a lot, but overall picture will be more or less same. So that is what the purpose of this session is, to give you an overview of the interview, so that individual anomalies or individual discrepancies or deviations, we will discuss in detail more on a one-on-one basis. But the more common ones, which across the years I've understood, students often face problems in, maybe low academic score, maybe year gap, maybe, as the one common thing I always hear is, there's nothing exceptional, what do I even say? So these kind of things or thoughts, so how do we address them, right? That we will try to settle once and for all in the next 2-3 sessions. So why I'm saying this is that bear with me, because some of these things you might feel that it's probably not relevant to me, but we have to address everyone. It has to be very homogeneous, right? It has to cover a comprehensive in nature. Okay, all right. So see, if I have to, and I always try to make things simple. So in an endeavor to do that, sometimes you miss out on the nuances. I understand that, but I believe that simplicity is the way to smart learning. So I'll continue in that style only. So I would say that the interview questions can broadly be classified into 5 categories. Most important, number 1 is personal, about you. And it can be anything about you, like absolutely anything. Once they are in the interviewer seat, They feel empowered to grill you, to prod you on anything at all, anything related to you. It can be your life, your hobbies, your interest, your choices, your family, your friends, anything, your school, your college, anything. Yes, Anubhuti, as I said, slowly, steadily will cover everything. My request to everyone will be stay with me. Don't go ahead of yourself. There are 1001 questions and I know all of them. So all you have to do is just stay with me. Whatever I am saying, just go along with me. All right. Ekdam match my steps, my pace. So personal questions are these. Second, I would say is academics, right? Because if you are a fresher and you don't have work experience, then obviously your last 4 or 5 years majorly have been given to dedicated to academics. So obviously they're entitled to ask from there because that's what your life has been for last 4 5. At least that is what the expectation is. You've been in college, you're specialized in something very important, commerce, engineering, arts. So they expect you to be a knowledgeable, expert, a professional. 3 4 years of your life given to something, one domain of learning. Third is work experience, but obviously only if you have it. So if post-grad work experience is what is counted, so obviously if you have that work experience, they'll ask you questions on that. They would prefer work experience over academics. But work experience is only substantial if it is more than 1 year. Less than 1 year is not really, does not really count for much. So again, they can ask anything and anything under the sun. But less than 1 year is not something that we need to worry too much about. Okay. And even if it's during the graduation or high school work experience, so we may not have mentioned it in the form, but in the interview we can always say, because it can become another brownie point for us, that this is something that I've been doing even as a young person. When others were busy enjoying their life, I was actually earning, taking care of my expenses. All right. Okay. And fourth is general knowledge. So when they ask general knowledge, very rarely do they ask you GK questions, specific trivia or GK questions. If they do so, probably it is to pile pressure on you, to put you in a tight spot, and less to evaluate your understanding of a situation, your analytical skill, which is why they will ask you GK questions. They want to see how do you look at a situation, how do you assess, evaluate, analyze, a situation. So say example, revocation of farm law, is it good or bad for economy, similar kind of things, right? Okay. And fifth is miscellaneous, which can be anything like a puzzle, or what is the meaning of your name, three things which is exciting about Lucknow. So it can be anything, community, name, city, state, these kind of slightly offbeat things, general casual conversation, more on those lines. Okay. So these are your 5 categories. And as I said, the most important is personal. It's almost a constant, and I don't have the data, obviously no one does, but I would hazard a guess that at least 60-70% of the interview content more or less revolves around that personal thing. So we'll start with that only. Yeah.
Sorry, sir, I was not on mute. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, meanwhile also in this session, if anyone has a question, you are free to interject, right, and ask the question. Okay. But as I said, at the beginning, we'll go slowly. So we'll cover everything, why MBA, 10 years down the line. In the sessions that we'll be doing, we will cover all these questions, but we will go in a certain structured format, right? So as I said, there are 5 types of questions which are commonly asked. And the most important of the lot is personal questions, which is about me, the interviewee, right? And again, as I said at the beginning of the session, personal questions mean everything is game. They can start from your, I don't know, infancy, childhood, adolescence, your life, your career, your neighborhood, your future plans, YMA, everything. All of this is part of your personal domain, sphere. Personal questions in a way means anything which is connected to you, which they are not aware of, right? So your 10, 12 graduation marks, they know. Your college, they are aware of. It's written in the form. But your, other part of your life, your personality, what do you like, what do you dislike, what has worked for you till now, achieve success, what is it that you need to improve upon, all these things, the introspection, your mindset, your thoughts, these are the things, your upbringing, what are all the factors that has shaped the person that you are, influences, all those factors. That is what they are curious to know, right? And why are they curious to know? Again, that is another question. Why not ask us about economy, about business, about finance, marketing? Because eventually that is what we will do, because that is something they'll teach you. At this stage, they need raw material, and raw material means personality, temperament. That is the raw material which they can shape. They can, glisten, give it that cadence of brilliance. But they need that solid personality, that core strong, person. And that they can only know by asking you. There is no other way. See, when you go to a college, you in a way become the brand ambassador of that college. Whatever you do, good or bad, will reflect on the college. So it's very important for them to know you as a person. Are you honest? Are you ethical? Are you empathetic? Are you a good team player? All these qualities very critical for becoming a good business person, businessman, businesswoman. And therefore they need to see that for themselves. They want to meet and check. And how can they do that in 20 minutes? That sounds like fantastic. How can anyone do that? They can, because they're very experienced. They do this for a living. This is their day job, and they've been doing it for last 40 years. So the instincts have been sharpened to the maximum possible limit. They can just talk, they can just listen to one sentence and create a mental map of who the person is, right? And very, very smart people is who they deal with inside the campus, right? 99.9 percentile and all that. And then they've been doing this for years and years. So they're very good at what they do. Okay. All right. So, but again, the objective is not what they want. We are happy to know that, but more importantly, what should we do, right? Okay. So, as I said, most of the interview, the major part of the content is about us. Okay, one more thing. So, someone told me that today there is a session on aspiration. I hope everyone is aware of aspiration. Those who have joined recently also, it's an online portal. You have an ID and password for that. So there's a online session at 9:15, I think. So we'll try to wrap it up before that for sure. I said we'll do 3-4 such sessions to cover the whole thing. Okay. So one part will be covered today. So what do we do then, right? So as I said, simple, very simple. So I'll give you very simple instructions, no complications here. Okay. So if they want to know me, right, know about me, there is no other way. I'm not important enough for them to hire a detective, right? Or, go to social media and try to inquire. I'm not that important, right? They want to waste least possible time to know maximum about me. The only source of information is me, myself. And therefore, my job in the interview should be to tell things about myself unfettered, freely, uh, as much as I can. So the number one rule of interview, there are 3 key rules, I'll say. The number one rule of the interview would be talk. Talk a lot. Talk and talk. So pithy answers, brief answers, absolutely cut out. Right? It has to be verbosity. Right? Obviously, we will know how to temper that a little, achieve that perfect balance with mock interviews and negative feedback and all. But we have to err on the side of talking, not err on the side of restricted communication. We have to give them a lot of material. We have to take the ownership of this interview, the onus to take it in the direction that we want it to. So first rule is talk. So if you sit for a mock interview and you keep mum, you keep tight, let's not say anything which can land me in trouble. Right? Let's be very cautious. Right? Let's not say anything. कुछ बोलेंगे नहीं तो कुछ गलत नहीं बोलेंगे. कुछ करेंगे नहीं तो कुछ गलत नहीं करेंगे. अगर ये वाला माइंडसेट रहेगा तो ये एकदम डिजास्टर का रेसिपी है. तो उम्मीद करता हूं मैं, I hope at least, and I pray that from the very first mock interview, from the very word go, you start focusing on this talk and talk and talk. That has to be the number one thing, the most important thing, number one. Second, we talk a lot, obviously, in the interview, but we have an agenda, we have a goal to get selected. So the second most important thing is talk good, right? We Indians are very, inhibited about it, very shy about it, to saying good things. We would prefer others to do that. We always have the disclaimer ready, not that good I am. You probably mistook me for someone else. This is not the forum. We have to sell blatantly, brazenly. So talk good. And that is what we will come up in the preparation stage, all those good things that we need to say. So 2 things, talk a lot, talk good, most important. All right, 2 most important things. Third, talk honestly, right? We have to be honest there, because that is, in that stressful situation, when you're on that hot seat and, you see all those eyes on you, all glued on your face, observing every single gesture, action, facial expression, you have to be a master liar, to fib on the spot. It's practically impossible. So all that exaggeration, I won't call it lying, but exaggeration or decoration in our answers, slight, making those stories grander than what they actually are, has to happen in the preparation stage. And in the preparation stage, we practice so much that we ourselves are convinced that these, stories are true, the veracity of the tales, that when we speak those stories in the interview, there is not an iota of doubt in my head that this is how it all happened. It has to be in the preparation stage, but you can't sit there and make up things. There, your goal should be to say the first thought that comes, not try to, lie your way, bluff your way out. It's very difficult, almost impossible. And fourth thing, which there shouldn't be any need to say, but because see, most of you who are going for the interviews are probably freshers or with very little work experience, and it does come across as a very, I would say, almost a shocking experience when you go for this. Right? It's very it's very different from what people expect it to be. So talk maturely, right? And how do I define what is mature talk? So two or three things. One, say take responsibility. So the easiest sign of immaturity, of childish behavior and mindset is when people shift responsibility. So something bad happened because of society, because of people, because of this, because of that. So anyone who is prone to doing this, of shifting blame of their actions and results and outcomes to some other reason, excuse, is definitely not displaying maturity. The other person may not say anything, but they see through you. Then they judge you for what you are saying, which is an immature, childish, stupid answer. So taking responsibility is one thing. Balanced answer, not overdoing it. So there are people who come to the interview and say, what do you want to do? So I want to start a business, and in 5 years I want to have this startup, which I hope, I never know, but in 5 years, so in 5 years probably. Yes, please mute yourself, Mr. Shalendra. So in 5 years time, probably, this will be like a huge startup for me. Okay. So people come and say this. Fair enough. Why not? I mean, people are doing it. People younger than you are doing it, right? But you are 22, 23. If you had to, you would have already done it by now, right? The people who have not done a single day's work in their life, not earned a single rupee, and they promise that after doing MBA, I will forsake my 30 lakh ka job. I will say no to it. I'll reject it. And I'll go and start a business where I may earn only 10,000 per month. Probably not even that. I will stake so much amount. After having taken a 20 lakh loan, all of this, they don't add up. It sounds immature, right? So be mature in your explanation, in your answer, right? So that part, okay? So I said three, but there are four in a way then, okay? So one was, I'll repeat, talk, please. And that has to be the first line of improvement. If it's already there, great. But if the people who are not that comfortable, please brainwash yourself into talking. You will have to push yourself to do that. Even in mock interviews, unless you talk, we don't have material to give you feedback on. And how do we tell you what to improve? We'll keep saying the same thing. Please bolo, talk, answer दो. ये तो useless हो जाएगा. So talk, nonsense बोलो, गंदा बोलो, but बोलो. ठीक है, क्योंकि आपको नहीं पता अच्छा है गंदा क्या. Leave it to the faculty. बहुत बार people say, sir, I gave such bad answers, but they're actually good, not bad at all. And there are times when people say, sir, I thought the interview went well, but I know how the interview went. It was not good at all. So leave it to the mentor's judgment, who is an expert in this. The number one is talk. Number one. Number two, talk good about yourself. Don't hold back. Lay it out. It's one opportunity in those 20 minutes. So, anything which is good. And what is good, we will discuss that now. So talk good. And third, talk honestly. Absolutely comfortable with who you are. Nothing to hide, nothing to defend, nothing to be ashamed of. Right? You are here. You have come to a stage where people can only dream of. What are we ashamed of now? Whatever happened, it was all in the past. So very, very honest. Absolutely. Whatever is to be changed has to be done in the preparation, not at that stage. And fourth, be mature, right? Be sensible, be rational, be someone I can talk with, not look down upon as a kid. Okay. Maintain that equilibrium in the interview. All right. Okay. So now the key thing I think is the second point. Talk good. Easier said than done. What is good? जैसे मैंने बोला, मेरे इतने साल के एक्सपीरियंस में, इतने हजारों स्टूडेंट में, लोग बोले ना भी तो भी मैं समझ जाता हूँ. I can second guess this, that the doubt in their mind is this only. So there's nothing good in my life. सर आपको लगता है, but there's nothing worth saying. कुछ किया ही नहीं है मैंने. मेरा ऐसी 22-23 साल ऐसी निकल गया लाइफ का, राइट? सो लोगों के दिमाग में यही थॉट चलता रहता है. सो इसका दो एक्सप्लेनेशन और काउंटर आर्गुमेंट है. वन इज, it's a paltry corporate job. आई नो द इंडियन सोसाइटी हाइप इट अप टू सम अदर लेवल, जैसे पता नहीं इसके बाद नासा जाएंगे हम या पता नहीं क्या हमें सीईओ ही बना देगा। बट ये बहुत ही एवरेज सा मीडियोकर सा मीडियम लेवल कॉर्पोरेट जॉब का ट्रेनिंग है ये, कैट इंटरव्यू एमबीए एंड ऑल। बहुत हाई फाई नहीं हो रहा है। उनमें से कुछ 1% लोग शायद कर लेंगे, वो भी आईएम्स टॉप आईएम्स के एकदम टॉपर टाइप। ज्यादातर लोगों को जो सैलरी मिलती है वो एवरेज ही है, अभी हमें लगता है बहुत ज्यादा, बट उस लीग में जब हम चले गए तो वो ठीक ठाक है, ओके है, गुड है, मतलब ऑब्वियसली एलिट है, बट इट्स नॉट सो बिग, राइट, इट्स ओके टाइप। ठीक है, पहली बात तो ये कोई इतना नहीं है कि हम इतना टेंशन ले, देयर इज नो नीड फॉर दैट, द रिक्वायरमेंट इज नॉट एज मच एज यू थिंक, वन। सेकंड, see, you think you have not done anything exceptional, but you have led a fairly okay life. You have not done something really bad, like you've not been into, you've not landed up in jail, or you're still continuing with your studies. You have done reasonably well. You have cracked or done well in one of the toughest exam in the country or probably in the world. You have reached this interview stage. You have displayed enough sincerity and earnestness to practice for it, to take training for it, to take coaching for it, to prepare for it. You're ready to fight with the best brains in the country. You're not ready to be bogged down. There must be something good about you, something interesting about you. And probably that is what we need to figure out. And everyone will have a different set. Don't compare. That is another thing. इसका तो IIT है, इसका गूगल में जॉब है, सबका अलग है। ठीक है, सबका अलग अलग होता है, और वो जैसे जैसे हम करेंगे ना, यू विल गेट अ फील ऑफ इट, राइट। तो पहले तो दिमाग से निकाल दो ऐसा कुछ नहीं, हर एक का जब बाय द टाइम वी एंड दिस थिंग विद यू, everyone will have an awesome profile, right? But we need to dig deep, and you will have to do that. I can't do that for you. I can just refine it, but you will have to understand what I'm hinting at and bring up those things from your back life, right? So what are those things? वो क्या है, गुड का डेफिनेशन क्या है, और एकदम जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ वही फॉलो करना। ये मैं आपसे हाथ जोड़ के ही विनती करता हूँ, भगवान के लिए। मैं मानता हूँ आपका दिमाग बहुत तेज है, पर मत चलाओ अभी शुरुआत के फेज में। जस्ट फॉलो एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, राइट? सो गुड का डेफिनेशन में तीन चीजें आएंगी, थ्री आईज, आई विल से थ्री आईज। Either impressive, we all know what impressive is, or interesting, right? Interesting, like say father and grandfather in army. That is interesting, right? Not very few people actually have that lineage of army. Or mother journalist, right? Or traveling job, I've stayed in 10 cities, interesting. Okay. Or I have written more than, like, this was there last year. There was one guy, and I came to know of this in the third interview. For whatever reason, he never revealed it till the time we reached the third interview. And by some twist of conversation, we actually reached the stage. That guy had written more than 1,000 stories, right? And some of them were published in some free forum and all. Many of were not published, but 1,000 stories. And I read some of them and were pretty good short stories, right? So that is interesting. We can't call it impressive, right? But it's interesting. It piques my curiosity. It ignites my interest in you. It makes me like wonder a little, excited, like, I want to know more about you. You become an interesting person for me. Interesting. And third is inspiring. You did something which was a little inspiring, some social work, helping someone, fighting against the odds, some comeback story, everything against you. You fought the elements and you achieved success, right? Those kind of things. So these three things. I hope everyone is making note of this. Either impressive or interesting or inspiring, right? These three. This is the definition of good. Okay. First, right? Second, what you guys need to do, every one of you, is to write down 25 such points, 25 minimum. Whatever you think falls under the category of impressive, interesting, or inspiring across your life, last 20 years, 22, 24 years, 26 years. Everyone needs to write down those bullet points, one-liners. कॉलेज में ये किया था, स्कूल में ये अवार्ड जीता था, मैं 10 में इतना, प्री बोर्ड्स में बहुत कम लाया था 50%, और बोर्ड्स में मेरा 90% आया, कुछ भी ऐसा, राइट? एनीथिंग, ठीक है, कुछ भी, मतलब एनीथिंग, व्हाटएवर यू थिंक. सो आई हैव ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू व्हाट द पैरामीटर्स, इंप्रेसिव, इंटरेस्टिंग और इंस्पायरिंग. तो 25 बुलेट पॉइंट्स, ठीक है? ये ऑर्गेनाइज तरीका है, ये इट ऑलवेज पेज. सो जस्ट फॉलो दिस होल प्रोसेस and write down those 25 points. Think of anything. It can be family, friends, your life, growing up years, something in school, something in college, even cat coaching, anything that comes to your mind. Write down those 25 bullet points. Okay. Then, so first, second, what you do now is you try to club those points. Okay. जैसे आपको लगता है कि अच्छा, ये भी कमबैक स्टोरी है, ये भी कमबैक स्टोरी है, दोनों कमबैक स्टोरी है, कि मैं पहले फेलियर हुआ फिर सक्सेस हुआ, वैसा, तो इनको एक साथ कर दो. तो ऐसा क्लब करना शुरू कर दो पॉइंट्स को, और वो हो जाएंगे, मुझे पता है। तो आप जब लिखोगे तो आप भी रियलाइज करोगे. सो ट्राई क्लबिंग देम. There cannot be any particular rule, but let's say 5 into 5. So 25 points, 5 clubs with 5 points each. Clubbing means similar kind of points, similar themes, similar stories. So now you have 5 broad points, right? Each with 5 stories, 5 small stories, one-liners, 25 points sorted like this. It won't happen exactly like this. I'm just giving you an example. It can be 7, 3, 8, whatever. These boxes, right? With stories in them, one-liner stories, right? This is your preparation. So, it might be surprising that is it so easy? Like that is all? People don't do this every year. And I don't know how many of you will do it. See, how many of you are even attending this session? That itself is disappointing. The people don't. And then they will come back later, what to do, how to do, what should we do? But this is all that we need to do. This is the whole process, right? You make these boxes with those stories in it, right? Most of your job is done, but there's a next part to it. How do we relay those stories? How do we tell those stories, right? We have to become a raconteur, a good storyteller. So how do we do that? So those one lines have to be expanded into story of 100 words each of them, all 25, right? I know it's hard work, but trust me, if you do it once, I mean, you're so sorted. It's almost like a guarantee of cracking those interviews. So each of them have to be expanded into a 100-word story, all right? And when you write those stories, you have to be mindful of a few things. A story, the stories that you will write, those 100-word tales and all, it must always have a structure. And the ideal structure is the comeback structure. Okay, comeback story. So almost all the stories can be of that type. I call it a CAL method of writing a story. Challenge, achievement, learning, post the experience. So challenge, achievement, learning, CAL. So practically all the stories can be written in this form: challenge, achievement, learning. So all those one-liners have to be expanded into 100-word stories. That is almost all of your interviews, right? All the questions: why MBA, strength, weakness, anything which makes you stand apart from other candidates 10 years down the line. All of those answers can be drawn from here only. This is your major preparation. This is all. Okay. And just one or two things. So when we write a story, we just have to be, be careful about the fact that it does not become a drag, boring. बस वो बोले जा रहे हैं एक ही बात को रिपीट. हम सब ने ऐसी स्टोरी सुनी है, तो हम वैसी स्टोरीज ना सुनाए. ठीक है, तो वैसा ड्रैगिंग टाइप का ना बन जाए, एकदम बोरिंग सा स्टोरी. तो थोड़ा सा उसमें इंटरेस्टिंग रखना है उसको. जैसे अपने बारे में ही हम बोले जा रहे हैं तो बहुत बोरिंग हो जाता है वो. तो एक वो हो गया हमारा स्टोरीज का एक पार्ट. ठीक है. और स्टोरीज में मतलब वो सेंट्रल कैरेक्टर मैं ही हूँ, तो ऐसा ना हो कि हम किसी और की स्टोरी सुना दिए कि मैं वहां था, मैंने ऐसा देखा, ये हुआ, वो कहानियां नहीं सुनानी है. So I have to be the protagonist. So if I'm not the protagonist, that is where creative writing skill should kick in. You become the protagonist. You have to be the central character in all these stories, right? And don't, again, as I said, don't feel too shy or inhibited about it. They expect you to do this. वो उम्मीद करते हैं इसका. ठीक है, इतना सा चलता है, कोई इतना कोई मेजर नहीं है ये. ठीक है, तो ये आपका प्रिपरेशन हुआ, right? This is what we need to do. Okay, all right. So I mean, I told you that you can interject and ask a question, but no one has done so. So I'll just take a 2-minute break to address any question till now. Yes, people, anything on whatever we have discussed till now? Anyone? Guys?
Sir, articleship will not be counted as a break, right? Like a gap or something.
No. See, in the interview stage, still form, they have rules and all. At interview, there are no rules. So interview is what you say. If you want it to be counted, they'll count it. For interview, they don't mark or they don't write. It's all conversation. It's all impression. So when you leave the room, it's like the image that we have left in their subconscious memory. Interesting person, very diligent. ये तो कैंपस में आके ऐसा करेगा, ये तो बहुत इंटरेक्टिव होगा, मुझे लगता है ये कमिटी में जाएगा. वो इंप्रेशंस जो हम क्रिएट करते हैं, दैट इज व्हाट इंटरव्यू इज ऑल अबाउट. सो वहां पे कोई रूल्स नहीं होते हैं. ठीक है.
So when we'll make our resumes and stuff,
देयर इज नो
then
रेज्यूमे.
we
नो रेज्यूमे, नो रेज्यूमे.
okay.
वो जो उनका इलैबोरेट फॉर्म होता है वही होता है. कोई रेज्यूमे नहीं मांगता. कोई एक आधा कॉलेज मांग लिया तो मांग लिया, बट आई हैव नेवर हर्ड ऑफ इट. अगर कोई मांग लिया तो उसके लिए मैं आपको एक फॉर्मेट दे दूंगा, आप सिंपल सा बना लेना. बट बिकॉज so I'll also tell you what you need to carry in the interview. So you carry this folder, right, where you have your form, sabse upar, that college form, right, and scorecard, and then all your certificates in the reverse chronological order. सो लेटेस्ट से लेके फारदेस्ट उस रिवर्स ऑर्डर में सारे सर्टिफिकेट्स आपके रहते हैं, बस यही आपका रेज्यूमे, यही सब कुछ है। और ये बहुत मोटा फाइल बनाना है, तो आपको सर्टिफिकेट्स डालने हैं। वेरी रेयरली इफ एवर एट ऑल एनीवन विल हैव अ लुक एट देम, कोई नहीं देखता है, बट वो एक तरह से ड्रेस कोड है, एक तरीके से कैरी करना है। जैसे आप बैंकर है, बैंकर को हर समय न्यूज़पेपर रखना ही है, वो पढ़ता भी नहीं है। मैं कितने बैंकर से मिला, वो फाइनेंशियल न्यूज़पेपर्स पढ़ते नहीं है, बट हर समय कैरी करते हैं, क्योंकि उनके ड्रेस कोड का पार्ट है, सूट टाई न्यूज़पेपर। तो वैसे ही हमें भी इंटरव्यूज में जाते समय फोल्डर वी हैव टू कैरी इट, राइट? वेरी रेयरली एनीवन विल हैव अ लुक एट इट, बट इन केस दे डू, इन केस दे लीव थ्रू इट, they should be impressed by their meticulousness. I gave, in my time, I must have given some 25 odd interviews, all IIMs, Excel, mid-level college, सब दिया था मैंने, बहुत अप्लाई किया था। सिर्फ एक इंटरव्यू में, I don't remember which one, सिर्फ एक इंटरव्यू में they took my folder and they went through it. And I arranged it very, systematically. And I'm pretty sure they would have been really impressed in the way it was all arranged. So that is all, ठीक है? But resume कभी नहीं बनाना पड़ता है। Yes, guys, questions before we kind of resume where we were? No? Okay. So now, so this is, I'll just quickly repeat what I said. So talk good. How do we do that? Impressive, interesting, or inspiring. 25 bullet points, which falls in these categories: interesting, impressive, inspiring. And you club them into groups, maybe 5 into 5 kind of blocks. And then each of these one-liners have to be expanded into a 100-word story, which is interesting, which should not be too boring. Now, where do I get this material? How do I even start? So in your aspiration account, there is this form, which is kind of similar to what I have told you. You have to write an autobiography of 2000 words. So again, and ये एकदम simple, direct proportion में मैंने हर बार देखा, जैसे पिछले साल मैं बोलूं, the people who actually wrote it, we had this session, within 2 days they wrote it. In case they were unable to, they got in touch with me, they asked me, नहीं हो रहा ये वो, I told them something, they wrote it. And almost invariably, I'm not making this up, you can probably check this data 3 months later when it will be of no use to you, but maybe for your interest, people who do this, they crack interviews. And people who just keep debating, arguing unnecessarily, sir ये करें, इसका फायदा, मन नहीं हो रहा, मूड नहीं हो रहा, मैं क्या करूं, गाना चला दूं आपके लिए? तो जो नहीं करते हैं, कहीं ना कहीं उनको प्रॉब्लम होती है। I'm not saying it is always true. There's some people who have a natural ability to handle themselves in an interview, but again, it's a competitive scale. Why take a chance? The stake is huge. The rewards are mammoth. We have done a lot to come to this stage. Let's not lose our grip at this stage. तो आपके एस्पिरेशन में वो फॉर्म्स दिया हुआ है, वो अगर आप भर लोगे तो उसका एडवांटेज है कि जब हम प्रोफाइलिंग करेंगे तो डेटा रहेगा हमारे पास, वो एकदम अननेसेसरी का रैंडम कन्वर्सेशन नहीं होगा। जो फैकल्टी आपका मॉक इंटरव्यू लेगा उसके पास एकदम रेडी मटेरियल है, ठीक है? तो एस्पिरेशन में यू हैव दीज थिंग्स, आप उसको फिल करो टाइम लेके, और ओवर टाइम भी मतलब पहला ड्राफ्ट है ना, तो एकदम लिखो अच्छे से। तो ये मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी, you'll have to fill 2-3 notebooks like this, okay? ये करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? Okay. So since there are no questions, I'll just carry on. So now, when the most important question, can someone tell me the most common
Just
question?
a minute, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, like you said, interesting or inspiring. So for example, if something is interesting that is out of league, right? For like example, I'm a commerce student, but I like universe, I like studying about space, but that is something that it is in interest, but if somebody asks me to talk about it for an hour, I might not be able to explain or talk much about it, because that is something I like to read and listen, but
Okay, I got your point. अभी और मत बोलो, नहीं तो मैं भूल जाऊंगा तुमने जो जो बोला, ठीक है? मैंने मेंटल नोट बनाया है, तो मैं पहले इसका आंसर करता हूँ जितना तक बोला है, फिर आप सेकंड फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन पूछ लेना, ठीक है? तो पहला आपने बोला आउट ऑफ लीग. व्हाट आई थिंक यू मीन इज आउट ऑफ लाइन, मतलब डिफरेंट फ्रॉम योर नॉर्मल प्रोफाइल, रेगुलर कॉमर्स गाई से अलग. वही चाहिए भाई. उनको तो याद भी नहीं है तो कॉमर्स है कि बीटेक है कि क्या है, उसे फर्क भी नहीं पड़ता. वो तो इंसान कॉफी पे मिलने आया है, वो सुबह से शाम तक इंटरव्यू ले रहा है. वो तो कई बार ऐसे बोल रहा है, एक जोक सुना, मेरा दिमाग वो हो चुका है, फिर हम इंटरव्यू करेंगे. सो अगेन, नाउ व्हाट आर वी डूइंग हियर? फिर हम खुद सोच रहे हैं क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है नहीं है, जबकि हमें तो एक पैसा एमबीए आता भी नहीं है. तो अगर मैं बोल रहा हूँ एनीथिंग इंटरेस्टिंग गोज, सो आई एम योर ओनली सोर्स ऑफ मेंटोरशिप. सो इफ आई से इंटरेस्टिंग मींस इंटरेस्टिंग, आप मत डिसाइड करो एमबीए क्या होता है, फाइनेंस एंड मार्केटिंग का ही बोलना है, बिल्कुल नहीं. जो नॉर्मल इंसान को इंटरेस्टिंग लगेगा वो इंटरेस्टिंग है, पहली बात, ठीक है? अच्छा, सेकंड, आपने बोला कि 1 आवर तक हम नहीं बोल पाए. एक तो उतना बोलना नहीं पड़ता, सी 20 मिनट्स का इंटरव्यू, सो एनीथिंग विल नॉट बी डिस्कस्ड फॉर मोर देन 2-3-4 मिनट्स. कोई भी एक टॉपिक उससे ज्यादा नहीं जाएगा. कई बार 10 मिनट्स का इंटरव्यू होता है, 15 मिनट्स का ही होता है, आजकल यही स्टैंडर्ड है. तो 2-4-5 मिनट एक कन्वर्सेशन होल्ड करना है अपने टॉपिक पे जिसपे मुझे ज्यादा नॉलेज है उसके कंपेरिजन में. तो आई एम ऑलरेडी एट एन एडवांटेजेस स्टेट, पहली बात. सेकंड है, यही तो प्रिपरेशन है ना. We have 1 month, 2 month at our hand. We will identify these 3-4 things that we want to sell to them. This is what makes me stand apart. These esoteric ideas, this very out of line, varied personality, diverse interest, हर चीज में थोड़ा थोड़ा मेरा interest है, curiosity है जानने की, that makes me a good manager. When I'm trying to project myself like that, obviously I'll study a little on these things for 1 or 2 months. And again, अभी जब आप करना शुरू करोगे ना, I'll realize it takes not more than 2-3 hours. किसी भी टॉपिक में अगर आपका इंटरेस्ट है, आपने सालों से पढ़ा है, तो 2-3 आवर्स में ना आपको बहुत एक्सटेंसिव नॉलेज इंटरनेट पे मिल जाती है, अगर आप नोट्स बना रहे हो तो उससे ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगता है. ठीक है? सो आई होप आई वाज एबल टू एड्रेस ऑल योर क्वेरीज. और कुछ बचा है इसी क्वेश्चन पे?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So moving on then, what is the most common question that you have heard of being asked in an interview? Most frequently asked question in an interview. Yeah, everyone knows what is that question?
Why MBA?
नहीं, अच्छा, कोई भी इंटरव्यू में वाई एमबीए, वो बंदा सीए पढ़ के आया, वाई एमबीए.
Tell me something about yourself.
Right. So most common question is, tell me something about yourself. Introduce yourself. Right. सबसे common question. It's a lazy question. I don't want to think too much. I have not read your form also. So I've passed the onus to you. तू ही बोल. तू कुछ बोलेगा, मैं सुनूंगा, उसी में से मेरे को कोई मटेरियल मिलेगा नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन का. तो मैं ज्यादा फोकस नहीं करना चाहता, तेरे आंसर से मैं मटेरियल निकालूंगा. And this is what we have to understand. When they ask us, tell me about yourself, what are they saying? They're not saying, tell me this about yourself, that about yourself. Tell me anything, whatever you want to. I'm not dictating terms anymore. You have the field here. You have the stage. Sell yourself. So tell yourself का मतलब है sell yourself. Right? Anything you want to. No objections, no limitations, no guidelines, nothing. Right? जो भी तुमको अच्छा लगता है, ठीक है? और उसका रीजन मैंने अभी आपको बताया, इंटरव्यूअर के माइंडसेट से, उसका क्या थॉट प्रोसेस है कि from whatever you will give me as an answer, I'll pick up my points. I'll pick up the cues for the rest of the interview. He mentioned football. Okay, I'll ask him on football. He mentioned family business. I'll ask him on family business. He mentioned great academics. I'll ask him about academics. So whatever you tell me, I'll take that material and have the conversation move on from there. Right? So this is an opportunity. So tell me about yourself का मतलब होता है वो grab करना है, वही opportunity है, वहीं पे हम इंटरव्यू खत्म कर सकते हैं. तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन हमारे लिए, सबसे अच्छा क्वेश्चन हमारे लिए हो गया. सो व्हाट डू वी डू? वो जो हमारा 5 ब्लॉक्स है ना, जो हमने रेडी किया है, 100 वर्ड स्टोरीज, उसको लेना है और उसको प्रायोरिटी ऑर्डर बनाना है. ये सबसे इंपैक्टफुल, सबसे इंप्रेसिव, सबसे इफेक्टिव, ये नंबर 2, ये थर्ड, ये मेरा बैकअप, और मैं उसी ऑर्डर में आंसर करना शुरू करूंगा. बट वो बहुत लंबा आंसर है, यहाँ तो मुझे 1 मिनट के अंदर बोलना है, क्योंकि वो बीच में कहीं भी he'll cut me off and he'll ask me some question. So I'll summarize them into 1 word or 2, 1 line or 2 line, 2-3 line, और एक एक करके I'll move from this, from this, from this, from that. ठीक है? So maybe I can start, if someone has an excellent academic record, so excellent academic record, great attendance record, so overall impression, very meticulous, very punctual, very regular, focused on the job kind of person. Then maybe I'll move on to work experience, maybe if that is my thing. So, one of the best jobs in the campus, through interview and aptitude test, and great performance, early bonus, early promotion, and great career opportunity and all. So another good thing. So ऐसे करके मेरा priority order listed down रहेगा. ठीक है? ये मेरे को opportunity लेनी है. And if they ask us, rest assured, their next question will be based on what you have answered, which means the interview is staying on a topic that you have prepared for 2 months. Nothing can be better than that. You don't want them to ask you about the economy of Brazil, right? So even if you answer, a very less chance that it will be in your favor. So the best thing that can happen is the interview is about you, even if it's about your weak areas, even if it is about something you're not very proud of. But as long as interview is related to your life, you always have an advantage. If it moves out of your control, then you have to manage the situation. So आप उसको अगर इंटरेस्टिंग मटेरियल दोगे, वो उस पर पूछेगा, बात उस पर बढ़ती रहेगी, और बात पे बात बनेगी, थ्रेड्स बनेंगे, और 15 मिनट ऐसे ही निकल जाएगा, पता ही नहीं चलेगा. तो ये इंटरव्यू में आपका जो पहला क्वेश्चन है, टेल मी अबाउट योरसेल्फ, इफ दे एट ऑल आस्क, कोई गारंटी नहीं है, बट इफ दे डू दैट, देन दिस इज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी यू हैव टू ग्रैब. You have to make it interesting. तो कंटेंट इंटरेस्टिंग तो जैसे हमने डिस्कस किया वो करना पड़ेगा. मल्टीपल रिविजन्स होते हैं, ड्राफ्ट पे ड्राफ्ट. यू हैव टू कीप डूइंग इट, एंड फाइनल वर्जन वो आता है, वो भी उतना अच्छा नहीं होता. यू हैव टू सी इट इन द इंटरव्यू, यू गेट सम फीडबैक, यू अगेन इंप्रूव इट. वो एक प्रोसेस है. एक कम्युनिकेशन वाला पार्ट भी है, व्हिच वी आल्सो डिस्कस, राइट? बट ये हमको समझना है. टेल मी अबाउट योरसेल्फ इज दिस. डू वी अंडरस्टैंड दिस एवरीवन?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Any questions related to this question? Tell me about yourself. Yeah, one thing. So before you ask, let me anticipate a question and address that. So how do we start at all? So should we give a brief, should we give a complete overview of our form and where we are from? No need, because it's already there in the form. So if it feels odd starting एकदम straight away अजीब सा कुछ, तो maybe one line of introduction at most. I'm Abhishek Singhania. I've done my graduation in commerce from Calcutta, and then I can go on to that point that I wanted to, right? But that is also not necessary. We can straight away start from the point that we have identified for ourselves. I've always been academically meritorious student, and I was a district rank holder or whatever. It's not odd at all. So that is how we start. And how long the answer should be, आप 2 मिनट 2.5 मिनट का रख सकते हो. Very rarely it will go that long. They'll definitely cut you off in between and ask you some question in between, and that is a good thing for us. But if at all they don't, that maximum 2 मिनट, 2 मिनट ज्यादा ही है, 1 मिनट बहुत है, but maximum 1 to 2 minutes के बीच का आंसर आप अपना बना सकते हो इसका. Yes. Any more question related to this? Tell me about yourself. No? Okay. And again, I think if you prepare for tell me about yourself, you're prepared for the whole interview. Everything else will come from here only. As you will see, जब मैं एक-एक question discuss करूंगा तो आप realize करोगे. All the answers will come from this question only. So this is like the fulcrum. This is like the foundation of the whole process. Ek answer and I'm done. But this answer alone takes days and days and revisions and feedback and whatnot. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll give you a list of very common questions that are asked in the interview, and over the session today and next few sessions we will cover all those questions. So common personal questions जो पूछे जाते हैं. Everyone make notes. So tell me about yourself. तो एक हो ही गया. Why don't you guys tell me? Have you heard of such questions? What questions have you heard of being asked in the interview? Personal questions, not academic or work ex. Yeah, quickly, guys.
So personal questions I was asked at I'm Kozhikode, what is your weakness? And I told about my favorite cricket player and my role model. So they asked about his weaknesses. Like I told MS Dhoni. So they tried to counter me that why didn't he favor Srisa? And then he was involved in match fixing scandal. So what are your views about it? So they try to counter you over your
I
idol
think that's
also.
a good example that you brought up for everyone's benefit. That you see what happened. Role model is how it all started, or probably weakness is how it all started. It went to MS Dhoni. From MS Dhoni, it went to Srishant. From Srishant, it went to match fixing, right? But who started it? Who carried it forward? Not them. You did it. What else will they ask? So if I tell them about MS Dhoni, or if I tell them about some weakness of mine, they're not going to ask me about finance bill or something. They're not going to ask me about budget. I am telling them this is what I'm interested in. Right? And then I cannot limit that agenda कि MS Dhoni achievement और कुछ मत पूछो, वो तो पूरा पूछेंगे ना. And MS Dhoni is a leader, is a manager, so that obviously kind of gets their attention also. तो वही angle से वो question पूछेंगे, ठीक है? But any which ways, the thing was the common questions that are asked. So Utkarsh has rightly pointed out, दो question हमें मिल गए यहाँ पे. एक है strength and weaknesses, common personal question, strength and weaknesses, और दूसरा है role model. Role model. Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Any question that you've heard being asked in an interview? Personal questions?
Why MBA as a fresher?
Why MBA एक हो गया, एक तो why MBA हो गया, फिर ये why MBA as a fresher, वो किसी को भी पूछेंगे. कोई work ex आएगा तो why do you want to quit your job? ठीक है. कोई business से आएगा तो कि यार business कर रहे हो, why do you want to do MBA? So why MBA एक तो है common. Why MBA after engineering? ठीक है. तो why MBA है, और फिर आपका पर्सनल स्पेसिफिक भी पूछते हैं. Why MBA being a fresher? Why MBA with work experience? Whatever. ठीक है. And Anubhuti has rightly said future goals. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Where will you be 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later? Where do you see yourself in 2030? Right? Future goals. Himanshu, strength and weakness तो अभी अभी बोला मेरे भाई.
Say one is what is unique about you.
ये तो मैंने ऐसे ही सुना है, रैंडम क्वेश्चन है. यूनिक अबाउट यू, अब आप ही मेरे को बताओ, हु इज दिस? वानी. यूनिक अबाउट यू अगर आपसे पूछेगा तो वो क्या जानना चाहता है? वो अपने बेटे की शादी के लिए तो नहीं पूछ रहा है.
No sir, it is mostly I think it is about why he should choose you over others.
हाँ, सो हमें क्या बोलना है फिर?
Sir, I don't know.
Strength ना?
Yeah.
It's just a different way of asking that question.
Yeah.
Right. He will not exactly use the same terminology. What are your strengths? But that is what he wants to know. No, what is so special about you? What is so unique about you? Why should I select you? How are you better than other candidates? What will I answer? My strengths.
Yes, sir.
और my strengths और क्या कर सकते हैं?
what I have done.
राइट,
Yes, sir.
अचीवमेंट्स.
Yeah.
एक और क्वेश्चन होता है अचीवमेंट्स एंड फेलियर्स. Your biggest achievement, your top 3 achievements, your biggest failure. What did you learn from your failure? What do you regret the most in your life? One thing that you would like to go back and change in your life. But the same thing, failure. So achievement and failure, ये भी common question है, बहुत commonly पूछते हैं, right? What else? What else have you heard or read or whatever? Common personal question in an interview, MBA interview. Common questions. Yeah,
So
people.
describe a situation where you had to display leadership. This is also there in the SP Gen form, I think.
हाँ, ये भी होता है. लीडरशिप एग्जाम्पल
हाँ.
ले लो. सिचुएशनल क्वेश्चंस तो कॉमन नहीं है, ये वो आपका अनुभूति है. सेट सिचुएशनल क्वेश्चंस लाइक दे गिव यू अ केस स्टडी. जो आपने जैट में डिसीजन मेकिंग क्वेश्चंस देखा होगा ना, वैसा केस स्टडी. तो वो कॉमन क्वेश्चन में नहीं आएगा और वो पर्सनल नहीं हुआ ना. वो तो आपका वो अदर्स वाला कैटेगरी मैंने नहीं बनाया था, 5th कैटेगरी, वो उसमें जाएगा ना. सिचुएशनल क्वेश्चन, कोई मॉरल डायलेमा, कोई एथिकल डायलेमा, कुछ भी ऐसा, राइट. आपको मैं स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर बना दूं, व्हाट आर द 3 थिंग्स यू विल डू, उस टाइप की चीजें. तो वो अलग हो गया, वो पर्सनल नहीं हुआ ना. तो बट ये जो इन्होंने बोला ना लीडरशिप एग्जांपल, उतना कॉमन नहीं है बट ठीक है. लीडरशिप एग्जांपल. और वैसा ही एक और आएगा, बिगेस्ट चैलेंज इन योर लाइफ, बिगेस्ट चैलेंज, राइट. बट इन सब में हमें क्या करना है, स्टोरी सुनाना है. लीडरशिप एग्जांपल आल्सो इज एन इंस्टेंस, इज एन इंसिडेंट. It cannot be like some general gyan. It has to be some specific thing, right? Some particular incident that happened. तो वो स्टोरी है, एकदम वेल कंस्ट्रक्टेड स्टोरी लीडरशिप की. बिगेस्ट चैलेंज भी एक स्टोरी है विद एन आउटलाइन. ये तब हुआ, ये हुआ, ऐसा हुआ, ये चैलेंज की स्टोरी. तो वो प्रॉपर एंड, मतलब बिगिनिंग टू एंड एक स्टोरी है, राइट. ठीक है. सो लीडरशिप एक्सपीरियंस, बिगेस्ट चैलेंज. और कुछ आप लोगों ने सुना है कॉमन पर्सनल क्वेश्चंस इन एमबीए इंटरव्यू? गाइस कम अप विद समथिंग. Yeah.
Sir, something that you would like to change or anything that completely changed you in your life or your perspective about
You
life?
can write this down क्योंकि आपने अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछा है, लेकिन ये बेसिकली वीकनेस ही हो गया. One thing that you would like to change about yourself, तो वीकनेस ही है, बट ठीक है ना. बट you understand ना, it's the same thing as weakness.
Yes.
Right? Okay. But Himanshu has mentioned a good common question that they ask is about your family. और उसके बाद facets होते हैं. What did you learn? Most inspiring person in your family, most interesting experience of your family. So family related. मैं हर एक क्वेश्चन को डिस्कस करूंगा इनमें से, और जो क्वेश्चन हमने नहीं लिखा वो भी डिस्कस करेंगे if you come up with something. So I'll explain how do you write answers maybe in the next session, because we are a little short of time today. But today we are just listing down all these questions. Any other common questions? Anything else? Family हो गया, रोल मॉडल हो गया, स्ट्रेंथ वीकनेस हो गया, अचीवमेंट फेलियर हो गया, लीडरशिप हो गया, चैलेंज हो गया, हॉबीज एंड इंटरेस्ट, राइट. हॉबीज एंड इंटरेस्ट. वाई एमबीए हो गया, गोल्स हो गए, जॉब और बिजनेस. नहीं, ये कोई नहीं पूछता है. ये क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया तो आप ये समझ लेना कि अब ये इंटरव्यू नहीं चल रहा, वो मेरी ले रहे हैं, और गंदी वाली ले रहे हैं. तो जॉब और बिजनेस करोगे, ये ऐसा कोई नहीं पूछता है. उसके पास ना आपको देने के लिए जॉब है ना बिजनेस है, वो एक प्रोफेसर है भाई. अरे ठीक है एवरीवन, ठीक है. चलो, सो ये दिस इज अ वेरी स्मॉल पूल, बट इट्स अ वेरी गुड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सैंपल ऑफ द काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस दैट दे कैन आस्क. ठीक है. सो आई थिंक इट्स अ वेरी गुड रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ द होल इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस दैट इज लाइकली टू एक्चुअली हैपन. सो इफ वी हैव टाइम, मे बी वी कैन टेक अप 1 or 2 क्वेश्चंस एंड कवर देम. वी डू हैव टाइम. सो यस, can anyone just take lead? Anyone who has written down all these questions, can you just take up one of those questions and I'll discuss this? Anyone? How can you contribute to the nation? नहीं, ये भी मतलब पूछ सकते हैं, but बहुत common नहीं है ये. But ठीक है, I think Anubhuti has come up with this interesting question. Maybe you can write this. We'll discuss it later. How will you contribute to the nation? But not very commonly asked question. और personal नहीं हुआ ना, ये भी others वाली category में चला गया. Personal मतलब आपके बारे में, specific to you. Okay, all right. So yes, can anyone take lead, like, I don't know, head boy or something, and just pick up 1 or 2 questions from that list, which I can discuss today?
So what are your strengths and weaknesses?
Why MBA?
हाँ, पहले स्ट्रेंथ एंड वीकनेस कर लेते हैं. वाई एमबीए में इसलिए होल्ड पे रख रहा हूँ बिकॉज वी विल डू अ सेशन कॉल्ड लाइफ एट बी स्कूल. तो उसमें ना ये वाई एमबीए कवर हो जाएगा. वो पूरा एक सेशन होगा कि बी स्कूल में लाइफ होती कैसी है. वैसा ही एक सेशन मैंने आज 2:30 पे रखा था, मतलब फॉर सम ऑफ यू, and the attendance was so pathetic. The 2 people who came, they promised me never to come again back. So not a very good behavior from you, but any which ways. So why MBA will have that session, that life at B school. So that will give you a proper idea of what to say when they ask us why do you want to do MBA. Okay, so maybe we'll do it after that session. So let's take this strength and weakness. तो अलग अलग लेते हैं, strength weakness. पहली चीज है when they ask मेरे semester नहीं ठीक है, it's okay. Strength, when they ask us about strength, so it's a what we need to mention is personality traits, strength of character, strength of personality, not habits. Right, so it has to be something which is ingrained in us, right? So matlab what I'm saying is I wake up early, won't pass muster, maybe very lower down the order, in the pecking order, ki last mein if they keep pressing और बोलो then maybe, but otherwise ये कोई top में आने वाली चीज नहीं है. So एक हमारा जो पूरा कंस्ट्रक्ट है, डिस्पोजिशन है एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग, उसमें 3-4 चीजें ऐसी क्या है which helps us achieve success, which kind of drives me along, which makes me a slightly better individual than others, which defines me as a person more than others. ठीक है, पहली चीज ये. सेकंड ये है जो कॉमन वर्ड्स होते हैं ना, लाइक ऑनेस्ट, हार्ड वर्किंग, आई डोंट नो व्हाट, फ्रेंडली. सो ये सब एकदम नहीं बोलना है. Why? I'll tell you. Everyone is honest. Everyone is hardworking. I know, मुझे पता है आप लोग मनी हाइस्ट और ये सब देख के आपके दिमाग में लगता है यार मैं कितना शैतान टाइप इंसान हूँ, मेरे कितने डेंजरस थॉट्स हैं, बट आपने देखा नहीं है डेंजरस होता क्या है लाइफ में, राइट? आप लोग बहुत सिविल हो, बहुत सिविलाइज्ड हो, आप लोग एकदम परफेक्ट हो, तो आप लोग सब ऑनेस्ट हो, आप लोग सब हार्ड वर्किंग हो, उतने नहीं हो जितने होने चाहिए, बट फिर भी हार्ड वर्किंग हो. लोग बहुत वो करते हैं, मतलब दे शर्क अ लॉट. आप लोग सब फ्रेंडली हो, ठीक है? तो ये क्वालिटी सब में होती है. तो दीज आर नॉट द थिंग्स दैट वी हाईलाइट. दिस इज लाइक गेट पास, दिस इज क्राइटेरिया. दे एक्सपेक्ट यू टू बी ऑल ऑफ दिस, पंक्चुअल, ऑल दीज थिंग्स. वो तो मान के चलते हैं सब में है, डिसिप्लिन्ड, ये सब मान के चलते हैं, ठीक है? इसके बियॉन्ड क्या आप में एक्सेप्शनल है, वो बताना है. Right?
So, will taking initiatives come under this?
Yeah, absolutely. So taking initiative can be that, right? It is not natural to all of us that we always lead the way, we set an example for others, or we jump at an opportunity. Not all of us do that, right? Especially we Indians are culturally a little inhibited and all. So it will definitely be there. But more importantly, the point that I'm making, ये जो simple चीजें है ना, उसको नहीं बोलना है, और ये reason है. I hope everyone got the drift, what I'm trying to say here, okay? So you will have to come up with something, like she said, taking initiatives, right? इस तरह का, और perseverance, that I am the kind of person who keeps at it, who never quits, right? Lot of failures in my life, but I never gave up, right? Or I can make people very comfortable. I've always been commended for my listening skills, that I'm not prejudiced. I don't give unsolicited judgments. I'm a good listener, so people find it easy to repose faith in me. They find me trustworthy. That is the feedback I've received from people. So is tarah ki cheezein, these are the practical cues which will help you succeed in life. Honesty नहीं, क्योंकि आप जिस लीग में जाने की बात कर रहे हैं वहां सब ऑनेस्ट, सब हार्ड वर्किंग है, राइट? ये तो हम अब ऊपर टॉप एलिट लीग में है ना, तो वहां ये चीज है जो मेरे बारे में थोड़ा सा अलग है. ये भी सब में है, बट मेरे में थोड़ा बेटर है. And it kind of works. So I've understood that as a mature adult. ये मैंने strategy बना ली है, ये मेरा success mantra है. This is what I'll use in my life. So in my office, in my workplace, in my meetings, मैं ये use करूँगा because this is natural to me. And this is how I win people over. This is how I get my stuff done. I get my work done, right? तो ये होता है आंसर, ठीक है? और if you just say this and if you don't give a story example, then this is of no use. ये आइडल वर्ड्स हैं, ये प्रोमिसेस है. वो इलेक्शन में नेता यूपी में तो चल ही रहा है, वो है यूजलेस, कंप्लीटली यूजलेस. सो इट हैज टू बी नॉट पोटेंशियल और प्रॉमिस, इट हैज टू बी परफॉर्मेंस, कि ऐसा हो चुका है. पीपल हैव टोल्ड मी, आई हैव रिसीव्ड दिस फीडबैक फ्रॉम अदर्स, दिस इज हु आई एम, दिस हैज वर्कड फॉर मी इन डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशंस, दिस इज हाउ आई have achieved my goals and all, whatever. Therefore I know this is what is good about me. Not because I just sat and thought कि मेरे में ये अच्छा है, मैं ऐसी चाय पीते पीते मैंने सोचा मैं ये हूं, वो नहीं. ये हो चुका है, या मैं ऐसा बनूंगा, वो नहीं. ये हूं मैं ऑलरेडी. परफॉर्मेंस है, वो प्रोमिसेस और पोटेंशियल का जीरो, नेगेटिव वैल्यू है. वो मैच्योर आदमी है, सेंसिबल है, वो बोलेगा नहीं बट वो मनी मन आपसे डिस्गस्टेड है, ये फिर आ गया बेकार की वही इमैच्योर बातें बोलने. तो you tell them, how do I know that this is what I'm good at? Because it has happened. This is the story. This is what people told me. Therefore, this is convincing. This is rational and logical. Okay. अच्छा. और वीकनेस नाउ. तो स्ट्रेंथ मैंने 3 चीजें बोली. पहला, स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ बिहेवियर, कैरेक्टर, ठीक है, वो हैबिट और वो सारी चीजें नहीं. पहला. दूसरा, सिंपल वर्ड, वो सिंपल वाला नहीं लेना है कि वो सब में होता है. आप में भी है, आपको लगता नहीं है, बट है कुछ हद तक. तीसरा, स्टोरी, एविडेंस, एक्शन, right? Not promises. All right. Okay. Weakness. So there's no harm in confessing your weaknesses. So कुछ लोग तो यही रहते हैं, सर ये बोले क्या? अरे भाई, कोई ऐसा कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. So anything you feel an area of improvement that you need to work upon, very freely you can say. One, पहला चीज, ठीक है. Second, having said that, you cannot go there and say something very basic. And how do I know that people say this? Because I've taken interviews, mock as well as for actual MBA colleges. लाल बहादुर शास्त्री, ISWBM, इनका मैंने इंटरव्यूज लिया है. तो एक्चुअल इंटरव्यूज में लोग आके ये सब बोले हैं, I don't feel comfortable working with women, right? Sir, I can lose my anger easily. I've hit people in college. These are unacceptable. ये वो नहीं है कि मैं माफ कर दूं, ये unpardonable weaknesses हैं. So I cannot go there and be dishonest, right? I'm telling you again, I know contradictory, but be honest. But this is not being honest. This is being stupid, reckless. तो वो नहीं करना है. अगर वो, एक तो वीकनेस होनी ही नहीं चाहिए थी पहली बार. ये कैसा वीकनेस है? दैट यू आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल वर्किंग विद वुमेन और सिमिलर टाइप्स. अगर है भी तो वो बोलना नहीं है, ठीक है. थर्ड, जैसे स्ट्रेंथ में स्टोरी बोलना है, वीकनेस में स्टोरी नहीं बोलना है. आपको कन्विंस नहीं करना है कि मैं इतना वीक और कमजोर कैंडिडेट हूं, मुझे रिजेक्ट करो. तो वहां कोई एविडेंस, कोई सपोर्टिंग एग्जांपल नहीं देना है, बट वहां पे रेक्टिफिकेशन देना है कि दिस वाज रॉन्ग विथ मी, दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई नीडेड टू वर्क अपॉन एंड आई डिड इट. How many people have the strength of character, the maturity to introspect, identify, acknowledge, and improve? I did that. I accept openly. This is something I need to work upon. Everyone has something or the other. This is the problem with me. I've been working upon it. So if I'm impatient, maybe I've been doing some self-help exercises, breathing exercises, or some mental exercises which helps me increase my patience. Maybe doing yoga, right? Whatever it is. But you give them that rectification wala thing. So I remember this, and this is one story I'm always fond of retailing about weakness. It actually happened. I'm not making this up again. So there's this guy who came up and said that, sir, I stammer a lot and all, and I have this problem in speech and all. And we were like, you've been speaking for 10 minutes, there's no stammering. And he said, see the improvement I've made in 6 months. It's the rectification 6 months. Mein. Any which ways. So strength, weakness, is it covered? Do we all understand what we are supposed to say in these questions? Yes, Utkarsh, question.
Sir, like you said, we should not mention things like anger. But if we have worked upon it and improved a lot, so can we mention it at that point of time then?
Yeah, we can. But again, kind of, lower down the degree, temper it.
Okay, sir. And sir, one more thing, like when I took mock interviews last time, I mentioned that I might end up taking emotional decisions. So some people said that it counts as a strength because it shows that you are empathetic. But at other point, people said that it is a weakness. So it is a dilemma that whether you should go in strengths or weaknesses.
See, that's the thing. See, it all comes down to how do you explain it, right? So if you present it as that this is something I've realized about myself, that I'm able to take everyone's interest into account. I do listen to people and their concern. I very rarely react in a snap way, and I try to factor in everyone's interest. I'm very consensual, very accommodating as a manager, as a team worker. And I believe I take emotional decisions at times, which I think has helped me actually. Then it becomes a strength. And if you present it as a weakness, sir, at times I feel that I need to be more firm. I need to be more categorical, more calibrated, more calculative in my decision, more strategic in my approach. I get carried away at times, and I feel that people have often taken advantage of this. Then it is a weakness, right? Mere realization that this is happening to me is a beginning of rectification. मतलब ये जानना कि ये मुझ में है, यही काफी है ना, फिर improve करेंगे ना, right? तो दोनों तरीके से, how do you explain? That is what it comes down to.
Sure, sir.
Okay, strength, weakness, guys, हो गया ये अच्छे से. Anyone, anything? Okay. All right. So it's 9:05, but let me take one more question. Otherwise, ये बहुत लंबा चलेगा. Session पर session होते रहेंगे. So I'll take one more question. And 9:15 से आपका aspiration पे है, but I'll just quickly take one easy question. तो कोई easy question ले लेते हैं. Role model ले लेते हैं. Easy question है, बहुत पूछने का, बहुत common भी नहीं है role model. ठीक है? तो and ideally मैं हर class में जब हम लोग physical classes करते हैं, what I always do is that whenever I do a question like strength weakness, on the spot I ask people to answer this question, like write bullet points. So I don't know if we have time for that. Let's do that only. I think that will be better. Everyone take 2 minutes and write down strength or weakness, whatever you think you have. 1, 2, 3 जितना भी है strength और weakness दोनों, कम से कम एक तो लिखना please. And then we will discuss them quickly in next 5-7 minutes. और ये ग्रुप में एटलीस्ट ज्यादा शाई और ये मत होना, यहाँ शर्म और हिचक से नहीं चलेगा. ठीक है, ये एकदम फाइनल है. दिस इज करियर एट स्टेक. एकदम अपफ्रंट होना है, ब्रेजन होना है. So everyone write down, try to write 3 strength, 3 weakness, और सिर्फ words लिखना, पूरा वो story अभी नहीं लिखना है. At least 1 strength, 1 weakness, everyone write it down. Then we'll quickly discuss, like Utkarsh discuss. I think it was excellent what Utkarsh said right now. I so appreciate such questions and such conversation. Yeah, everyone quickly, 2 minutes only. Just write down some strength and weaknesses, words, maybe small sentences. If you can think of some story in your life, maybe just a brief mention, and then maybe we can have a quick 5-minute discussion. Anytime anyone is ready, they can go. They can go ahead and ask, like mention those strengths and weaknesses whenever you're ready. Yeah, people, come on. Anyone, any strength, any weakness you would like to mention? Weakness could be couldn't mug up things. No, this is exactly what I was warning you against. Couldn't mug up things cannot be a weakness. And to be honest with you, I think it's a strength actually, but it is neither a strength nor a weakness, or not at the top of the list at least.
Sir, strengths I would like to talk about. Sir, I've often received the feedback from people that I provide a space where they can be comfortable with me and talk about themselves and share their personal issues. So that gives a great cushion to them. And then I'm perseverant. I mean, I do not give up in the face of hardships. And then I have an example of like.
These are the exact things that I said during the session. What are you doing here? ये तो copy paste कर रहे हो.
नहीं सर, वही एक्चुअली फीडबैक से मतलब है, एक्चुअल में चीज है.
Obviously ये तो मैं बता ही चुका हूँ कि ये तो डेफिनेट जेन्युइन है, बट इसमें इशू बस यही होता है ना कि you will have to explain it also, right? Just saying it not enough. Like how exactly this worked for you. So impatient, emotional attachment, and anger. Okay. Honestly, this doesn't sound very good. We will need to explain this better and use better words and better language also. So impatient is okay still, but फिर भी ठीक ठाक ही है. Emotional attachment and anger, तो I won't agree with this at all. We will need to find better words or better ways of saying this, right? आप भी सोचो, anger आपका problem नहीं है. आपने देखा नहीं है anger जिनका problem होता है वो किस level तक उनका problem होता है. तो वैसा तो नहीं है ना आपके साथ. तो थोड़ा सा ये है हल्का फुल्का, उसको उसी लैंग्वेज में उसी लेवल तक एक्सप्रेस करो. गुड लिसनर ये भी अच्छा है, बट गुड लिसनर मतलब क्या है? मतलब गुड लिसनर बहुत तरीके से होता है. तो एग्जैक्टली क्या है गुड लिसनर का मतलब? परफॉर्म मच बेटर अंडर प्रेशर. ठीक है, फेयर इनफ, बट उसमें भी 2 चीजें हमें बतानी पड़ेगी. देखो, प्रेशर में अच्छा परफॉर्म करना, लेट्स टेक दिस. सो दैट सम पीपल हु परफॉर्म बेटर अंडर प्रेशर बिकॉज दे वेरी काम, वेरी रैशनल, दे डोंट पैनिक, दे डोंट रश, दे कैन जस्ट सिट टाइट. यू मस्ट हैव सीन एंड नोन सच पीपल ना. टफ सिचुएशन, सब भागा दौड़ी, वो शांति से बैठ के अपना डिसीजन ले रहा है. कुछ लोग प्रेशर में अच्छा परफॉर्म करते हैं बिकॉज दे थ्राइव. जितना बड़ा चैलेंज उतना उनको कॉम्पिटिटिव स्पिरिट आता है, इसलिए वो ज्यादा रिस्पॉन्ड करते हैं. तो आपका स्टाइल क्या है? पहला तो वो एक्सप्लेन करना है, और सेकेंड उसका एग्जाम्पल ऑब्वियसली. Still trying to catch the habit of book reading. So as I said earlier also, these are maybe lower down the list, but वीकनेस में पहला आपको थोड़ा सा स्ट्रॉन्ग अपना कैरेक्टर का, पर्सनालिटी का कोई वीकनेस देना है. हैबिट वाला वीकनेस वो बाद में, बुक रीडिंग नहीं हो रही, लेट सो रहा हूं एंड ऑल दैट.
So was being an introvert will count as a weakness?
Yeah, see, but again, see, being an introvert is per se not a weakness. That's a nature. So you say it's a weakness because you felt that it hurt your, your work,
Yes.
hurt
Yeah.
your academics. So that you'll
Yes.
have to explain how and when.
Yes. So like I changed that when I entered college for my undergraduation.
Fair enough. I'm saying that if you say that it was a weakness, that it must have hurt your work, it must have affected your performance. So that is what you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Okay. So I was not able to take part in anything during my school
Right.
life, and I was bullied.
Fair enough. Now it
Okay.
makes so much sense. Now we understand why you consider it as a one of the main weaknesses which you have worked on and improved upon.
And so expecting people to do the job like very perfectly, maybe like you superimpose yourself on others. No,
But
Nirik,
don't
like this
say this.
has to be
Right,
done like this, and
right. I got
it
it. So
irritates people, and they don't want you to do those
hold
things.
your thoughts now. Yeah, we understood this. So yes, it can be mentioned as a weakness. Obviously, the language has to be different. For example, being too quality conscious, right? And then explaining that there are times, see, what happens is that whenever we mention a weakness, so we try to water it down by using this word at times, occasionally, sometimes. So we use these words. So sometimes I am so focused on quality that probably I demand too much from others. I've realized this and I've been working upon this, that I'm laying down my expectations in a more clear to understand way, establishing better, more transparent channels of communication and these kind of things, right? So the language has to improve, but it's a good point to be mentioned. Okay, let's see what others have come up with. So I'll just quickly go through all your answers very quickly. Okay, everyone pay attention. Book reading तो मैंने पहले डिस्कस कर दिया है. High on energy and motivation, optimistic. Optimistic भी common सा strength है, so I'm not too sure about it. High on energy and motivation doesn't sound good at all. ऐसा लगता है कि आप अभी 2 Red Bull पी के आए हो. बिल्कुल भी acceptable नहीं लग रहा है ये. We'll have to think of something better. Sometimes the idea is right, but language is wrong. So वो भी आपको देखना पड़ेगा. Introvert अभी मैंने डिस्कस किया. Missed various opportunities. हाँ, same to same जो अभी बात हुई थी. लो कॉन्फिडेंस, हेजिटेट, इंट्रोवर्ट, ये बहुत ज्यादा वीकनेस हो गया, तो इसको थोड़ा सा बेटर लैंग्वेज में लिखना पड़ेगा. तो जैसे मैंने बोला, एक तो इजी है, समटाइम्स, ओकेजनली, एट टाइम्स, वो वाला यूज करो. और कॉन्फिडेंस का स्पेसिफिक रीजन दो, मे बी पब्लिक में, पब्लिक स्पीकिंग में भी, उस टाइप का स्पेसिफिक कॉन्टेक्स्ट दो उसका. यानी कि हर समय लो कॉन्फिडेंस है. Strength में, I am willing to always consider and engage with an idea. So this is an outstanding. Apratim has given a wonderful thing. I am always willing to consider and engage with an idea even if I disagree with it. Only problem I have with this sentence is the word always. Mostly, ठीक है? But कितना अच्छा लिखा है इन्होंने? Everyone. I'll repeat it for everyone's benefit. I am willing to always consider and engage with an idea even if I disagree with it. This is the primary requirement of a person who's living in a democratic country, one, and more importantly for us, for a businessman, to be very open to ideas, right? Outstanding. So even if I don't agree, I am ready to engage with it, debate it. Fear of failure, fair enough. But ये थोड़ा explain करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि fear of failure तो हम सबको होता है. कुछ लोगों को थोड़ा ज्यादा होता है, पैनिक करते हैं, but वो explain करना पड़ेगा. Strong work ethic also needs explanation. Good listener तो हमने discuss कर लिया. Adaptable is a very good point. और इसमें बहुत stories आ सकती हैं, ठीक है? But adaptable point अच्छा है, but कितना अच्छा present करते हो, उस पे सब कुछ आएगा. Curious and inquisitive same. Point बहुत अच्छा है. But क्या देते हो आप? क्विजिंग करते हो, आप अलग अलग चीजों पे पढ़ते हो, रैंडम इंटरेस्ट है आपके, क्या है वो एग्जांपल आना चाहिए. ओवर थिंकर, प्रिया, आई थिंक इट्स अ डिसेंट पॉइंट बट नॉट वेरी क्लियर, तो एक्सप्लेन करना पड़ेगा. वर्तिका, आई थिंक प्रोक्रेस्टिनेटिंग, ये तो सबसे मतलब इजी वीकनेस है और ये एकदम परफेक्ट है. प्रोक्रेस्टिनेटिंग, राइट, टू डिले, टू पोस्टपोन योर वर्क, लूज इंटरेस्ट फास्ट, काइंड ऑफ सिमिलर बट यस परफेक्ट है. ठीक है, गुड पॉइंट्स. अभी आप लोगों ने थोड़ा अच्छा दिया. एटलीस्ट आई एम कॉन्फिडेंट दैट यू आर ऑन द राइट ट्रैक नाउ. ठीक है, सो गुड. तो एक आंसर हमने कवर किया. अच्छा, एक और आया है, स्ट्रगलिंग विद डेलीगेटिंग वर्क. ग्रेट आंसर यार, ग्रेट. स्ट्रगलिंग विद, ये तो मुझे लग रहा है मेरा आंसर दे रहा कोई. स्ट्रगलिंग विद डेलीगेटिंग वर्क, तो कोई भी मैनेजर के संग ना ये मेजर प्रॉब्लम होता है. सो वेरी गुड कि हम ना हर समय लगता खुद ही कर लें. कैन टेंड टू ओवरथिंक. एक्सीलेंट. So whenever you come to this, horn type of decision, dilemma, तो वो बहुत overthinking होती है उस समय, decision नहीं लिया जाता है. Great answer. Outstanding. Self-aware. I moved away from something when I realized it wasn't my cup of tea. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't quite. So this needs to be explained or written better. But I like the answer, or at least the direction it is taking. I tend to overthink about something going to happen in future and make myself nervous. Again, same. I understand what you're trying to say, but this has to be written in a much, much better way. The language right now is just not acceptable. ये सुनने में बड़ा odd सा, मतलब कोई नॉवल स्टोरी का लग रहा है ना, कि कोई हॉरर स्टोरी का डायलॉग है, तो उसको लिखना बेटर पड़ना पड़ेगा. आई डोंट मिक्स विद पीपल, विच समटाइम्स कॉस्ट मी. अगेन, मिक्स विद पीपल कुछ नहीं होता है, ये हम बोलते हैं, ऐसा कुछ वर्ड हो नहीं मिक्स विद पीपल. तो वो लैंग्वेज वाला एक पार्ट हो गया. और अभी जैसे मैंने बोला, कभी भी हम ये ना बोले आई डोंट मिक्स विद पीपल. समटाइम्स आई फाइंड इट हार्ड टू गेट अलोंग विद स्ट्रेंजर्स और स्टार्ट अ कन्वर्सेशन, which I felt has cost me an opportunity, which I regret. ऐसा करके कुछ. I do regular bullet journaling, so I do a lot of planning before doing something. Outstanding, Pooja, great point. ठीक है. I used to do that a lot. I don't have time now even for bullet journaling, but excellent point. Excellent. ठीक है. Meticulous nature, planned, scheduling, great. I so love the answers today. जो आंसर्स आए हैं फाइनली बहुत अमेजिंग आए हैं. और जिनका आंसर को मैंने थोड़ा अप्रिशिएट नहीं भी किया, एटलीस्ट मुझे डायरेक्शन सही लगा. उसको इंप्रूव किया जा सकता है, बट वे ऑफ लाइन ऑफ थिंकिंग बहुत अच्छा है. सो एटलीस्ट वन क्वेश्चन अच्छे से हमने सॉर्ट किया. एंड आई थिंक इट्स ऑलमोस्ट टाइम नाउ, क्योंकि 9:15 से आपका एस्पिरेशन पे सेशन है. सो एवरीवन कैन ज्वाइन. आई विल शेयर द शेड्यूल इन द ग्रुप. व्हेन विल वी हैव इंटरव्यू बेसिक्स 2, वो अब हमारा रहेगा. प्रॉब्ली 3 भी हमको करना ही पड़ेगा, तभी होगा ये. 1 2 3, होपफुली 4 की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. एंड लाइफ एट बी स्कूल. तो ये अभी हमारे प्राइमरी सेशंस है, फिर हम आगे जाएंगे. ठीक है.
I have not yet received my aspiration credentials.
ये बुशरा मैम को आपको, अरे उन्होंने आपका कर भी दिया है लॉगिन आईडी, वो उन्होंने मुझको बोला भी था वो. ओह गॉड. चलो आई मीन अभी तो एक बार उनको व्हाट्सएप करके उनसे ले लो, बट इन केस अभी नहीं भी मिलता है ना, तो वो जो सेशन है आज का, जो एस्पिरेशन पे हो रहा है, वो रिकॉर्डेड वीडियो मिलेगा बाद में. ठीक है.
So sir, can I call ma'am right now? It will be appropriate.
मैसेज कर दो. इट्स टू लेट फॉर अ कॉल. एक बार व्हाट्सएप ड्रॉप. ठीक है.
Sure sir.
ऑलराइट. ओके गाइस, गुड नाइट.
Thank you
Take
sir.
care.
Okay, sir.